Howdy everyone, welcome back to another Ultrakill challenge. I've been dying to try this one out. Can you beat the game with only the sawed-on chainsaw? I originally wanted to try beating the game with just the jackhammer, but saw someone already did that, so I decided to do this instead, which I was still excited to try out. Rules are simple. The chainsaw will be my main source of damage throughout the game. I'm allowed to ground pound and use my fists, but I decided to use them as sparingly as possible. This time around, I will be going over each layer as a whole instead of each level individually. Mainly to save time, but also because usually I don't have much to say for most levels. Same goes for a lot of the boss fights, which I will be slimming down. I also decided it's dumb to include every death, so I will only be including the notable ones. Anyway, without further ado, let's get started. Prelude as a whole wasn't too interesting, mainly just me learning the ropes and getting used to the keybinds. So to not waste the layer, I will just go over some things I learned while doing this challenge. The chainsaw isn't infinite like I originally thought. Use it for long enough and it will start to sound warbly and pop off. There's also a slight bug where if you are too close to a wall or flat surface, the chainsaw will go through it instead of bouncing off, usually breaking off immediately as well. And finally, when it shoots off, there will be a little star-like shape at the center of your screen to indicate when it's parryable, which was useful for when I wasn't looking or when it was behind me. Limbo wasn't very interesting either, besides probably my quickest time on the third level ever. I should say I'm going by the same rules as the last challenge I did. I don't gotta P rank, I just gotta beat the level. B2, as usual, was a pushover. Lust was next, and for whatever reason, I decided to just skip through most of the lair. I'm not sure why, I kind of just thought it was funny. Also, because I'm not sure if this has actually been done officially or not, and Gordon the Cat, I believe, came up with a name for his challenge, Spare Change 80%. I propose the name for this one, Lumberjack 80%. And last for part 1, Gluttony. The first level of Gluttony was pretty cool. Fighting Cerberus is surprisingly fun with the saw, so getting to fight the four in the first level was great. Gabriel, however, had me a bit worried. The saw isn't like other weapons. Damage isn't always consistent if you're as bad with it as I am. So sometimes you're left completely without a way to deal damage. So I was worried with Gabe.
Machine, turn back now. The layers of this palace are not for your kind. Turn back, or you will be crossing the will of God. Your choice is made. As the righteous hand of the Father, I shall rend you apart, and you will become inanimate once more. Behold, the power of an angel! You are can this be? Bested by this thing? You insignificant fuck! This is not over! May your woes be many, and your days too.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know why my mic was so quiet throughout half the game. It was on and said it was working, but just wasn't picking anything up. Anyway, next is Greed, my favorite lair. Again, I ended up skipping quite a bit of this lair, mostly just the first level, but I was excited for the next two boss fights, and although I was dreading the third level, which I hate with a passion, it ended up not being that bad. As I expected, Wrath was when the challenge started to get a bit more frustrating. Believe it or not, but by now I still wasn't the best with the Saw's parry timing, so every time it broke off or I accidentally fired, I would have to play Ring Around the Rosie with the enemy so I could survive long enough to get the Saw back.
Fairy boy. Yeah. Not to spare him, but I can't. Time for wrath. This one's gonna be rough.
One thing I did note while playing through Wrath is you do so much more damage compared to fists only, especially when the saw is shot out instead of just being held against the enemy.
Yeah, baby! Easy! Ass. Yeah, I got the level challenge.
Gluttony was next. The first level was a bit hectic to get through, but I eventually managed. One thing the saw struggles with is enemies that are spaced out in rooms, since obviously playing melee makes it hard to get close to enemies when they are far away. Dedoy. But the Gabriel fight had me shivering in my boots. After the Fist Only challenge, I was prepared to sit here for hours in practice. But luckily, I beat him second try.
This fight I'm not excited for.
Limbo, lust, all gone, with gluttony soon to follow. Your kind know nothing but hunger, purged all life on the upper layers, and yet they remain unsatiated. As do you.
I had that
You've
equipped.
taken everything from the machine, and now all that remains is perfect hatred. Machine, I will cut you down, break you apart, splay the gore of your profane form across the stars. I will grind you down until the very sparks cry for mercy. My hands shall relish ending you here and now. You're getting rusty, machine! That's the best you've got!
So good for a first try. Okay, I'm so much more confident now.
Time to right my wrong! I'll show you God! That's the best you've got! I'll show you true treasure! Twice! Beaten by an object! Twice! I've only known the taste of victory. But this taste is this my blood? I've never known such relief. I need some time to think. We will meet again. Your woes will be many, and your days few.
Well, that went substantially better than I expected.
Next up was Violence. I wasn't exactly excited for this layer, but I had a surprisingly fun time going through it. I was especially nervous about the Minotaur fight on the first level, but that went surprisingly swimmingly.
Why is the chain active? Okay. Okay. Beautiful.
The second level of violence went off without a hitch. As usual, guttermen were easy to take care of, and surprisingly, gutter tanks were a lot easier here than they were on the Fist-only challenge. Who knew having range makes fighting ranged enemies a lot easier. Nothing really notable happened on the third, besides getting the double power upgrade, which was fun. And the final level against Benjamin was also surprisingly challenging but fun. How about a And last, for the base levels, was Fraud. If you watched my last video, you know I hate playing through Fraud, and I was absolutely dreading this challenge because of Fraud and the Prime Sanctums. But, surprisingly, again, I really enjoyed the challenge Fraud brought me this time. Even if I'm not using the weapon correctly, it didn't nearly feel as unfair as going through here during the fist-only challenge. Even Disintegration did.
Here comes probably my most favorite boss in the game. That guy is getting ridiculous. There.
God, I love that fight. Anyway, on to Minos Prime. Just like last time, I cheated to get through Flesh Prison because the healing mechanic it has is bullshit even normally, so there's no way I'm beating it with just a chainsaw. I was pretty confident for Minos' fight, though.
Here it goes.
Free at last. Oh, Gabriel. Now dawns thy reckoning, and thy gore shall glisten before the temples of man. Creature of steel, my gratitude upon thee for my freedom. But the crimes thy kind have committed against humanity are not forgotten. And thy punishment is death. Forgive me, my children, for I have failed to bring you salvation from this cold, dark world.
Revenge.
And last, but certainly not least, was Sisyphus Prime. Because I wasn't able to beat him during my fist-only run, I was dreading this fight. But luckily, just like Gabriel, I beat him much faster than I expected.
This prison shall hold a visitor. Indeed, I have slept long enough. The kingdom of heaven has long since forgotten my name, and I am eager to make them remember. However, the blood of Minos stains your hands, and I must admit, I'm curious about your skills, weapon. And so, before I tear down the cities and crush the armies of heaven, you shall do as an appetizer. Come forth, child of man, and die. You can't escape. Yes, that's it.
Revenge shoots the pistol.
Destroy. You can't escape. So concludes the life and times of King Sisyphus. A fitting end to an existence defined by futile struggle. Doomed from the very start. And I don't regret a second of it.
And with that, the Lumberjack any percent challenge has been completed. I had a lot of fun making this one. I was incredibly excited for it when I got the idea and hope you had fun watching. I also found out how to finally get rid of that annoying static that came on during my voiceovers, so hopefully that never comes up again in future videos. If you enjoyed, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. I hope you all have a wonderful day. See ya.